Welcome on, boys and girls, back to the Player Podium for Game Week 5. I'm your host Alfie, and here is a refresher of the rules for you. Up to 3 players per team can get awarded points based off individual performances, with the best player receiving 3 points. And if your team receives less than 3 outstanding players, then the points are less. So if you've only got 2 good players, the best player gets 2 points, second best gets 1 point. There you go. Players accumulate points every week and are placed onto a leaderboard, which at the end of the season will show us who's been the outstanding player at each team, who's performed best and who's been a bit underwhelming. And every week, one player is awarded Player of the Week. If you have a look at the spread after game week 4, you can see at the 9 points, Semenyo and Grealish are the 2 best performing players for their teams this season, with Caicedo, Ekitike just in behind them, and with Haaland winning the Player of the Week for game week 4. We start off with the derby then, the 2-1 Liverpool-Everton. This is an important result for Liverpool. Obviously, you can't be losing the derby or dropping points at Anfield. And, you know, it wasn't their best performance again. They haven't been their best performances this season, but this was much more convincing than some of the other showings. In the first half especially, Liverpool were really on it. Dropped off in the second half. I mean, I think they played in midweek. Yeah, they played in midweek, Atletico Madrid, so can be quite leggy. Could be quite tired, which is fair enough, but you know, you'd hope that you've got the depth to change the players up after half time and keep the performance at the same level. And Everton really had them on the sword. They had them under the cosh for the last 45 minutes. They scored the goal, obviously. Could it have been 1 or 2 more? Maybe, but you know, Liverpool put in a pretty solid performance overall, and they did. I think they did deserve the win in the end. Taken 5 weeks, but Salah's finally got on the points, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to have him in, but his assist to Gravenberch was really nice, and his performance level overall off the right wing was improved from the last few weeks, so I think he does deserve to get in the points just for that. He scored a few goals, he's got a few goals and assists this season, but I just haven't been impressed with his performances, like visually so. But this is Salah heritage, man. What matters is goals and assists, and he got the assist today, and his performance was good enough to get the point. 2 points to give in Ekitike, and you do wonder why they brought Isak when Ekitike has been playing as well as he has been. He scored, his finish was lovely, really well taken, and again, I love him in that Firmino type role. He drops deep and links the play so well, which, I mean, when Wirtz starts performing, because you'd expect him to start performing soon, I doubt he'll need to do that as much. He can hold forward a little bit more, but in the meantime, while Wirtz hasn't really been up to standard, Ekitike has been doing a solid job. And in the top is Gravenberch, just really, really well done from him in that game. A goal and assist, and it's just defensive play as well. It's just really, really good. He's such an improved player from that first season under Klopp, and mate, he's like just so good. He's so good. He showed it. It's consistently as well across the season. Like even when he hasn't been getting the points in the games because players have been performing better, he is still doing well. It's like Caicedo in that sense. Like even when he's not performing outstandingly well, he's still doing a good job. Giving Grealish 1 point, it wasn't as effective as he's been in other games. Obviously, it's a lot stronger opposition than teams like Wolves, you know. So he did fine for his level anyway. He did put in a good performance, but you would expect him to be the linchpin for Everton and the one making it all happen, which wasn't necessarily the case in that game. So he's only got 1 point. He still performed well enough to get on the podium, but not well enough to be higher up for me. Giving Idrissa Gueye 2 points. He was pretty solid in the midfield battle, and his goal was really well taken. Really nice finish. He was for a player of his age, obviously. He's getting on a little bit now. I think he's 34, maybe pushing 35. His body's still holding up well. He can still do the box-to-box role really well, and he's obviously been boosted up by his goal. I won't shy away from that, but I mean, big impact, so he deserves 2 points. And then Dier gets the 3 points for me. He was the one making it all happen in that game. Everything obviously, but most of the good that Everton created came through in Dier, and yeah, it shows the depth that they've got. When Grealish isn't putting a 10 out of 10 performance, and Dier can just step right in and continue on. So on another day, in another game, Everton would have got points from that, and it would have been largely thanks to Dier. But you know, he performed as well as he could have given the calibre of opposition he was playing against. Again, another surprising result from Brighton. They've been a bit of a giant killer this season. Anyway, they've been a bit of a giant killer this season, but against the smaller teams, I do struggle a little bit. But I mean, a point at home to Spurs, given the way they've looked this season, you can't really complain. I don't think. And Spurs, Brighton is a hard place to go. It seems to be a difficult ground to do well at this season. I mean, they proved it against City, who were drawing and then conceded late on. But, pardon me, but again, the goals. I think for Spurs were a little bit lucky, but a lot lucky. Honest, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, which is, I mean, you'd rather have the luck than not. But you would think on another day, if you weren't that lucky, then that would very easily could have been a 2-0 loss against Brighton. So not that concerning for Spurs overall, but when they go away, you'd hope that they'd be able to perform as well as they've been at home, which hasn't necessarily been the case and showed in this game. Veltman again gets 1 point. I really do like him off that right because he allows Minter to get forward and he's pretty defensively solid himself. The only time Simmons off the left really got any like freedom was when he came into the middle and it wasn't Veltman's man anymore. And I don't think the central defenders for Brighton really had the best game anyway, so I'm going to give Veltman the point for me. Giving Ayari 2 points, again, largely influenced by the goal. I won't shy away from that, but the goal was really nicely taken. There's swerve on it. I think he knuckleballed it past Vicario and just sent Vicario completely. So, I mean, as a keeper myself, it's annoying because it looks like you should save it, and Vicario will say that he should save it, but it is a really difficult one when you can't predict where the ball's going to go. You have to react quite late, which obviously meant the goal went in, and it was a really, really nice strike. So, fair play to Ayari. And 3 points for me go to Minter. He seems to be Brighton's main man so far this season, and off the right hand side, he's really, really strong. I think the fact that he doesn't have to do the defensive work helps him out a lot as well. So he can just focus on a lot of the attacking output, which is positive for him because he's got someone behind him that he knows he can trust in Veltman, and if he really needs to, he's got the pace to come back and help him out. But again, he scored another goal in the game and was all round just a problem off the right hand side. I'm giving Richarlison 1 point for Spurs. This is because he got the goal and it was fortunate. I'll be completely honest, it fell at his feet. I think it was a shot from Kudus, it might have been, that fell at his feet. But, you want your striker to be able to score the goal in this situation, and he did score the goal. So, you can't really knock him too much. His overall performance wasn't fantastic, but as a striker, if you score a goal, you've kind of had a good game. So you can't really complain, if you're Richarlison or if you're really like a Spurs fan at the performance overall from him. Giving Paulinho 2 points. He seems to be a really tidy bit of business at Spurs have done. He's a nice little linchpin in the centre of midfield. He's going forward. He seems to have a bit more impact than he did at Fulham. Obviously, I didn't watch him at Bayern. I don't watch the Bundesliga. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But at Fulham, he seemed to be a bit more of like a facilitator. He'd hold back, play long balls. But here at Spurs, he seems to get forward a little bit as well. He seems a bit more of a box-to-box kind of role, and he does it really well. Obviously, he's a big man, hard challenger, so it's difficult to get round. But then going forward, he's got a good pass on him, so that's very helpful for him. And I think he showed out against Brighton. And 3 points given to Kudus. I thought Simmons was good off the left, even though Veltman kind of forced him inside a lot. I think Simmons was good, but the majority of the build-up play and the good like positive attacking output from Spurs came from Kudus. He got his assist obviously, which as fortunate as it was a good shot. It was probably going on target and it fell to Richarlison anyway, so he got the goal in the end, so it doesn't really matter how it went in. But off the right hand side, he's just such a threat for Spurs. He's like night and day the player that he was at West Ham last season. You could just tell he didn't want to be there. So yeah, now that he's in a new environment, he's really showing out. And I think come the end of the season, he could be really high up in the leaderboard. Burnley 1, Forest 1 now. It's not been an ideal start to life for Ange. Burnley at Turf Moor is a difficult game. You can't shy away from that. You can't ignore that fact. That is a hard game as it is. And, Burnley have been a pretty resolute team at home. They've been very, very difficult to break down and been defensively really good. But again, at the same time, if you're Ange, this is a game that you'd be wanting to win. Forest haven't had a very good start to the season for their standards that they set for themselves last season. So, if you're going to want to push yourselves up the table, you'd be wanting to try and push for the win against Burnley, which they did. But again, man, with the players that they've got better caliber players, so you expect them to take the win there. But Burnley again, honestly, whatever Scott Parker's like changed has completely worked. The defensive solidity that Burnley have got at the moment is really like something special. It took a handball in the last minute and a pretty thumping effort from Williams to concede twice at Turf Moor in the last two games, which for a promoted team is just that is pretty phenomenal stuff. And the points that they're getting at the moment isn't indicative of a team that is going to get relegated. Gone Florentino Luis. I think it was his full start in the end for Burnley, and I think he was really good in midfield. He's really hard hitting, solid midfielder, and going forward he was quite good as well. So he's got that box to box kind of, that Pelinha kind of mindset I think he was playing. But I think he did really well personally, so I'll give him the point. And honestly, I'm turning into a Dubravka Glaze channel at this point. I think he's been in the points every single week, but he's just been so good for Burnley. The way that they play invites a lot of pressure, so he has to be on his A game, because if Burnley are going to be having 30% possession all game, eventually they're going to break through. The teams are going to break through, and Burnley are going to face some shots. And you know, if Dubravka's there, you can't do anything about that Williams goal. Like, it's just a great finish. So if Dubravka's playing as well as he has been, then you know this is a really good case for Burnley just to keep hoovering up those points. And yeah, they got him on a free as well. That's just so like well done to whoever made that decision, because he's just been phenomenal so far. And the 3 points for Jadon Anthony. He's been pretty solid up front or at the top for Burnley so far this season. And he's Jesus Christ. Sorry, and he scored again in the game against Forest, which you can't complain about. And yeah, that's what you want from your attacking players. When you're a team like Burnley, when you don't have as many chances, you need to be clinical with them. And Anthony started the season by scoring quite a few goals for Burnley. So yeah, he deserving for me personally of the 3 points in that game. He looks weird. I hate seeing Douglas Luiz in the Premier League and not in a Villa kit. It's so weird to me, but he was back to his best, I think, for Forest in that game. Obviously, I don't think he's playing the attacking role that he played at times for Villa because of Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White in the middle there. So he's not going to be going forward as much, but it was a really resolute performance from him, and the goal, there's obviously nothing on him. So yeah, I don't like it, man. He just should be back at Villa. We'd be so much better off start of the season if we had him in the team. But well, I'll stop twerking for Luiz now and give points to Anderson as well. He's been so decent for Forest this season. He's been really, really like in the midfield. He's been the main man. I think Gibbs-White has had a pretty quiet start compared to how he was and has been for Forest. And I think Anderson's really taken on the mantle of the best, outstanding player at Forest to start the season. Obviously, they haven't had the best go of it so far, but he's been great. He can't do much more to help the team out, really. So, he's getting 2 points. And Nico Williams will get the 3. Burnley didn't have anything off the left flank, which I think Anthony was on the right. So, outside of the goal, Burnley didn't have too much going forward. So defensively, it was fine from him, and great finish. Really good, really well taken goal. It's really good that Forest know that he's got that in the locker as well, so they've got that option from the set pieces. But yeah, can't fault it. Really good goal, 3 points. Moving on to West Ham Palace. This was a poor game. I did not think Palace were at their best at all. They kind of stooped down to the level of West Ham. Almost, they performed badly. Well, not badly. They didn't perform badly. They played alright, but they performed worse, noticeably worse than they have done in other games. Like, they were so much better against Villa. They were so much better in the rest of the games that they played than they were, I think, in this one. Even though they didn't win, I think Forest at home at the start of the season, they didn't win that game, but they performed better in that game than they did against West Ham. But I mean, they got 3 points, so is what it is, really. And West Ham just so bad, so drab, so like lifeless. Potter doesn't look like he has a clue. I mean, but the only good thing if you're a West Ham fan this season, is the Potter face swaps on Twitter. So when that's the highlight of your season, you know it's not really going very well. Giving Bowen 1 point. He scored his goal, really well taken header. Outside of that, he didn't really have too much influence on the game. I didn't think he didn't do a lot. So you can't really, I couldn't really justify putting him much higher than that. And 2 points I've given El Hadj Diouf. I really do like him. I think he's a really, really good little left back, good progressive left back. All of the positive movement from West Ham came from him, in my opinion. He was the one really driving forward and trying to create, but obviously they didn't make too much happen in the game, so he played the best that he could and got 2 points. Giving Mateta a point. Really striker's goal that he scored. And outside of him and the 2 others, I don't think there were that many good performing players for Palace. In preparing the video, I was obviously going through. I watched the highlights, and then just before I do the PowerPoint, I go on to FOTMob and make sure I remember who I thought played well, and I'm gonna use Mateta now and use Palace and someone else later on in the video as an example. Please form your own opinions of how well players play. If you don't watch that much of a player, don't say that they're good or bad. You can judge them off the performances that you see, but if you don't see enough of them, please don't try and force yourself to make an opinion of them, because checking stats and checking match ratings especially, I don't think really gets you anywhere in terms of seeing how well a player played. Like, I went on FOTMob and it was a wall of green for Palace in terms of the player performances, and I just did not think that was the case at all. So I'm going to encourage you now, please don't use football apps and football ratings to form your opinions of how well players play. Second, gone Chris Richards. He was the best centre back for me for Palace in that game. It was a defensively fine performance again from Palace, which is what you expect at this point. Now we know what is it, 17 unbeaten, something ridiculous like that. But yeah, Palace have got a very underrated player on their hands in Chris Richards. He's the one that doesn't get the props that Guéhi and Lacroix get, and I think he was the best out of them in this game. 3 points, Tyreek Mitchell. Great finish on his weak foot, half volley right into the roof of the net. It's amazing stuff, and he won them the game in the end. Even without that, I think it was a good performance off the left, as it needs to be. Munoz is the outstanding fullback for Palace, but Mitchell still is very solid off the left for Palace as well, and he compounded that performance with a goal in the game, so well done Mitchell. Wolves 1, Leeds 3. I mean, it just gets worse and worse for Wolves. I don't see how they improved. I don't rate a lot of the signings they've made, just not at all. I think Arias and Lopez have shown very small glimpses, and I know nothing really of the rest of them apart from Craig Hughes scoring the game, and I'll spoil it now, got 1 point. I don't know why that picture's got so much aura in it, but it has. And a lot of the signings just aren't that inspiring so far for Wolves. They're struggling a lot in all areas of the pitch, really. I mean, I don't really know how to voice it best, but outside of just saying they are bad, because that's the only really way I can explain it. They just aren't good. They're defensively struggling, as you can see by conceded 3 at home to Leeds, 4 at home to City. They've conceded plenty of goals this season, and going forward, Strand Larsen's obviously not been playing, I think, among the transfer speculation, and he had an injury as well from what I remember, but outside of that, the formation, I think, as well, doesn't invite the players to play that much fluid attacking football. Outside of the goal that they scored, they didn't have that many chances, and I think the 3 at the back does kind of hurt Wolves, especially when they're defensively weak anyway. If you're going to play 3 at the back, you've got to be defensively solid, and they aren't. So if I was Pereira, I would be changing the system. I'd be having less players at the back, because they're going to concede goals anyway, because they aren't at the level that they need to be. So if they're going to concede goals anyway, they might as well throw more bodies forward and have more basketball style end-to-end matches, in my opinion. With 2 points, I've given Agbadu. I didn't speak a lot about Krejci because he scored. It's kind of it. I've struggled to find any other Wolves players that really stood out for me, but I think Agbadu, from defence, his forward passes and forward runs were really, really solid for Wolves. He made a mistake for one of the goals. I think it was... I'm sure he did. I think for the free kick he gave away a pass or something like that. But even so, I think going forward, he was, as for a centre back, his passing, his on the ball play, and his vision is really, really good. And obviously defensively, I mean, a mess overall. So I don't necessarily blame him particularly for any of the goals. But yeah, I mean, I would like to say on Match of the Day, I think it was Wayne Rooney said that Jose Sarr should have been more to the left for Statcher's goal because it went on keeper's side. I think that's a load of shit. If Rooney put more than a second of thought into that, he would have seen that if he was all the way on the left, Statch could have easily bent it over the wall and just put it in the top left corner. So I don't know why Rooney doesn't have the foresight to think that. Obviously, I know he's not a very clever bloke anyway, but I mean, I just wanted to point that out again to say you make your own opinions. Try, obviously, professional analysis is great because they provide insights to the game that we don't have, but you don't have to necessarily agree with everything that they say. And I didn't agree with what Rooney said about Sarr being more to the left. Because if he was more to the left, Statch would have just put it in the other corner, and Sarr would have been pedaling across the goal. So yeah, giving Okafor the point. It was a really good goal that he scored, really well taken. Sarr could have maybe done a little bit better, but even so, it was very powerful, right in the corner. So he did all he really could, and I think he should be playing more. You're at the point now where you signed him. I think they signed him fairly close towards the end of the window. He's had a month to bed in. This is where teams need to start playing the late signings, and I'm going to make this point and talk about the Villa Sunderland game, but this is the point where you start to play players like Okafor when he should start every week, and if the goal isn't enough of a highlight of that, then I don't know why. I cannot believe that in 2025-26 Premier League season I am giving Dominic Calvert-Lewin praise for a performance that he puts in on a football pitch. I'm so critical of Calvert-Lewin all the time to whenever I watch, it was Everton or Leeds now play, I'm always critical of Calvert-Lewin because however long ago it was, we've seen that there is a player in there, and I understand he's been battered by injuries, but I think the performances that he put in previously were awful. This is what Calvert-Lewin can do. His movement going forward was great. His goal was very well taken. A very good header, which he has got that aerial threat when he wants to. And if this is the Calvert-Lewin that we want to see, not the Calvert-Lewin that goes 17 games and 10 months without scoring a goal. You know, this is the kind of performances that, for as critical as I am as Calvert-Lewin, I do want to see. I don't want to shit on players. Like, I'm not that negative. I don't like Calvert-Lewin, but I don't think he's very good. But I don't want players to perform badly. I'm an optimist in a football sense. So if you can keep those performances up, if you can keep on playing this way, then Leeds won't have to worry about the striker problem. Because even when he wasn't on the ball, his forward movement was fantastic. Like, he created so much space by making those runs and created a problem for the Wolves' defence. So this is the Calvert-Lewin that can play, but are we going to see this Calvert-Lewin again for the next few months is the real question. And that's why I'm ultimately cautiously praising him after that result. Serious contender for Player of the Week this was. Anton Stach, fantastic free kick, great assist, all round fantastic attacking creative outlet for Leeds. Facilitated a lot of good forward play and all round just a really, really good performance. I was between him and two others for Player of the Week. So obviously if he's watching, then, you know, fair play, but just about missed out this week. United 2, Chelsea 1. There was so much clownery in this game, it's ridiculous. I thought Bob Sanchez had turned a corner, and then going and getting red card in the 5th minute is just so stupid. Chelsea themselves had no chance of winning this game. I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you take off Palmer, Neto and Esteval after 20 minutes of play, what do you expect to happen? Pedro's not a miracle worker. Honestly, he should have taken Palmer off after the red card. Palmer should have been the one sacrificed if he was an injury concern. You should have left on Esteval, you should have left on Neto, and you should have kept the system the same. Going to a 5-back just leaves you with such little attacking options that you aren't going to score many goals. The only goal they scored was a set piece. I mean, it was a good header and all, but come on, man. I don't know what Casemiro is doing as well. He is a Champions League winning defensive midfielder many times over, and he puts in 2 stupid challenges that didn't need to be made in the slightest. Enzo was going nowhere for his first yellow card, and André Santos was with him and Pedro against 4 or 5 United defenders. It was a red card. I know you can't complain about it. It was obviously 2 yellows, but I don't know what he was doing. Given Dorgu 1 point for United, it was a really decent assist, and I think he's a very slept on player. To be honest, he's quite fast down the left, so he can do the wing back role. He can track up and down, and he doesn't get. I don't think he gets enough recognition from United fans. I quite rate Dorgu, to be honest, and I think he was good enough to get a point in that game. I was surprised that Mazraoui got took off as well, because on the under flank I thought he was really positive. He caused a lot of problems down the right, but obviously bought the yellow from Cucurella, which was a very silly challenge again, but I think he did very well off the right hand side, and I would have kept him on, to be honest. I don't know if Amorim wanted to see out the game, but against 10 men when they got 5-4-1, I would have been going for it. So yeah, but either way, I think he played very well. And the talisman for United, Bruno Fernandes, got his goal. Just overall, just general, really good performance from Bruno, and it was just a classic Bruno performance. There's not really much else to say on the matter, to be honest. He was just the talisman again for United in the game. 1 point against Caicedo, did what he could. No forward play really from Chelsea in the game. They looked pretty flat. Obviously, when you go to a 5-back with 10 men, that's going to happen, but Caicedo was as defensively strong as he could and deserved 1 point. Nothing really more. It wasn't an outstanding performance from him, so he didn't really get more than that. But again, this is what I'm saying. Even when he's not outstanding, he's good. He's never really bad for Chelsea, so it's deserved point. I really like the cameo from André Santos off the bench. I thought he I think he's a defensive midfielder, but he kind of brought Chelsea's only real attacking impetus in the game, which was quite surprising because, when you go to a 5-back and you're a defensive midfielder, you don't really expect that. But he was a problem here and there, obviously, for United. But yeah, it was a very decent performance from him, and it shows the depth that Chelsea have got in that position. Fulham 3, Brentford 1, as you can see, not a very good Brentford performance at all. Fulham at home, this was very solid. I think Muniz was unlucky for it not to be 4, which, it is what it is. In a 3-1 game, you're not really going to complain, but it wasn't lucky. It could have been 4, and it could have been a lot worse overall, generally, for Brentford. Fulham gave the ball away a few times, gave them a few chances, but outside of that, there was really nothing for Brentford. They just looked. This is the kind of performance that I expected from Brentford at the start of the season. I thought they were going to be this bad in each game, which they haven't been, in fairness to them. But yeah, this is, again, nervy signs for Brentford. Giving Muniz a point. Big problem up front for Brentford. Movement was great. Unlucky not to score. His goal was really well taken. Obviously, it was near post. I think Keller could have done a bit better, but his goal was really well taken. Obviously, unlucky that it wasn't counting, but yeah, really solid performance. Has pushed Jimenez definitely out of the team now and shows why he is the starter there at Fulham. Harry Wilson gets 2 points. Really lovely goal. I love that type of goal. Just so composed, so eloquent, and he off the right, he was really good. Fulham have got quite a good little bit of attacking depth now. They've got players like Iwobi, Smith Rowe, Wilson, Traore, King that can play across that front, that three and behind Muniz, which is really helpful for them because when one's not playing, you sub another one on. But yeah, really, really good performance, Wilson. He doesn't pop up all the time with goals and assists. He can be a purple patch player, but if he can add a bit more consistency to his game, then I think he'll be starter for Fulham, no doubt. Iwobi was back to his best for Fulham in that game. Missed 1 or 2 weeks off the points, but he was back there. Really nice goal, really nice assist, and just overall was just the best player on the pitch in my personal opinion. He was another option for Player of the Week that I thought about and strongly considered, but in the end, it's the bloke later on that you'll see that got it in the end. And I mean, even now I could give it to Iwobi, but I won't. I made my decision now, and he should just know he was very, very good and very close to winning that award. Damsgaard's kind of on here because he scored. Brentford just had nothing at all in the game, and I really love Damsgaard as a player. I think he's their best player. So yeah, it's difficult to say a lot when nothing really happened for Brentford. That's the trouble I've got with kind of really coming up with anything to speak about for Brentford in this game, because they just had nothing. They were defensively poor and didn't capitalise on a lot of the chances that they had, especially one where they played it across the box in a similar way to how Damsgaard got the goal and they just didn't score, which if you in a game where you're playing that badly, you have to be scoring those goals. But Damsgaard got his, so I'll give him the point for that game. This was boring. This was a really, really not a very good game in the slightest. Newcastle have been quite flat like that this season, and it was one more for the defences this one. But again, it's nothing really to say. It just wasn't a very good attacking game, which is you'd expect Newcastle and Bournemouth to put on a good show, but they just didn't at all. I'm going to do it in a bulk here. I've given both the Bournemouth defenders 1 and 2 points. Diakite 1 and Senesi 2 because, yeah, they were pretty impenetrable for Bournemouth. And you'll see with the Newcastle shouts, this was just a game for the defences. And I'll do the same. I'll do it in a block for Newcastle. But, yeah, this was a really good showing from the both of them. Senesi's been good to start the season. And Diakite's not been Zabani or Hoyson levels. So, obviously, you don't expect him to. But I think he's been a good player. I think he's been a good signing in the meantime, and I think he's going to continue to grow. I've been more and more impressed with his performances, and I think he's going to continue to push on and perform for Bournemouth this season. And then again, 2 best players for Newcastle were defensive players, Burn and Pope. Burn was. I did check the stats for him. He made 15 defensive contributions, which is a shift. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of checking stuff like that to make your assumptions of players, but I watched the game as well. I didn't watch the full game. I watched the highlights of the game as well, and he was just solid. They couldn't really get past him, and when they did, Pope was there to make the saves when he needed to be. So yeah, it's difficult to speak on games where nothing really goes on, and this was another game for Newcastle where they looked just boring, which is a concern. I'd be concerned if I was a Newcastle fan, because you've had quite a few 0-0 draws now, and obviously the table right now isn't reflective of what it will be at the end of the season, but you focus on your performances a lot more at the start, and the performances hasn't been very, very inspiring. So saying for Bournemouth, it's a good point. Newcastle are a better team, and Bournemouth are keeping on good form, but I mean, against a team like Newcastle, the way they have been this season, I guess for Bournemouth to match them at their level is not really that surprising. So, yeah, decent for Bournemouth, not great for Newcastle. We scored a goal, and we won against Bologna, so I mean, we're fucking back, baby. In all seriousness, that goal, what? Good 6 or 7 players standing and watching Xhaka take the ball down and play it through to Isidore. Emery called the players lazy, and fucking should have. I was so frustrated seeing that goal go in. I was fucking fuming. But focus on the positives. We hammered them for a lot of the game. They had a 1.14% possession after the red card. We just couldn't make the most of any of our chances, and we had to rely on a Cash long shot to actually score in the end. And yeah, it wasn't a result we needed. That win would have been massive for us, because I think we could have taken the confidence from that. But again, forward thinking, we just weren't performing. Forward line just didn't perform again. So it was a frustrating one. I thought a 1-0 would be alright to hold out, and we should have made it 2 on various occasions, but this is what happens when you don't finish your chances. Well done. Sunderland were defensively amazing in that game. They were so solid. They were so happy to let us sit and play with the ball. They didn't need to force us to do anything, and they were really good in that game. Give 1 point to Isidore. Really well taken goal. I mean, from the chances that they had, it was all just set piece stuff and long throw-ins. So when those are the only chances that you really got, it's not really a game for your attackers. And when you go down to 10, then you're especially not going to have that much going forward. So Isidore did what he could and rescued them the point in the end, which is, it's what you want your strikers to do, which ours haven't been doing. Again, these next 2 players, I'm going to force home the watch the game, the eye test narrative. Somehow, Ballard only got a 6.4 rating on FOTMob for his performance in that game. I think that is fucking ridiculous, to be honest. I think Ballard came on and was so assured, so dominant, caused us so many problems off the set pieces, and defensively as well, just aerially dominant. So again, please watch the games, because if you check the football apps, you'd have thought Ballard didn't play well, and I couldn't disagree more personally. And this is my player of the week, Nordi Mukiele. On FOTMob, it said Catch was the man of the match in that game. Couldn't disagree more. I thought Mukiele was amazing. He was so good in defence. He swept up everything. He was aerially great. Just for the whole 90 minutes, we struggled against him, and that's such a smart bit of business to get him in from Sunderland, and he was just so superb in that game. And obviously, player of the week, you expect it to be the players that are doing it all up front. So like Statue and Iwobi, you'd expect to be the ones that would get it, that player type. But again, when you're performing as well as that defensively, you can't really argue against it, in my opinion. This might be a bit surprising, but I've gone Sancho for a point for Villa. The reason I've done that is the level that he showed off the bench vastly outweighed that of Buendia, Rogers, Gesson and Watkins. Him and Elliott, I was debating whether I wanted to give us 3 players on the podium, but I don't think we deserved it in the end. But I think Sancho, you could swap Sancho out for Elliott, and I wouldn't argue, but I think Sancho off the left wanted to get at his man, wanted to put a ball in the box, wanted to create chances, which is something we lack and lacked in that game before he came on off that flank and off the flanks in general. So I personally was impressed with Sancho's cameo, and I was impressed with his cameo against Bologna as well. And I'm going to say it again, this is the point of the season where you need to be starting the players that you signed on deadline day and late on in the window. They've had the month now, they've had some game time, you've got to get them on the pitch. And I think Emery needs to start Sancho and Elliott against Fulham on the weekend. Rogers played full 90, Gesson played 90, and yeah, those two could be dropped for the next game. I'd be doing Sancho, Elliott, Marlon and Watkins, I think. Because you've got to try and play Watkins at home against Fulham is a game he can score. And if he's not playing well, you can put Marlon back up front, which is where Marlon did really well against Bologna. So that's what I'd be doing against Fulham. But especially starting Sancho, I really did like his cameo. He needs to be getting more time. definitely needs to be getting more time. You can't just be doing 10 minutes off the bench. And 2 points gone Cash. Overall, really good performance off the right, and his goal was lucky. Roofs had a bit of a stinker with it. I think he was blindsided, and the shadow probably didn't help. But thumping effort from Cash, and yeah, it's a goal. It's a goal. We scored a goal. It was amazing stuff. I was like a kid in a candy shop. I was like so happy when it went in. Arsenal 1, City 1. City need to be holding on to these wins. You can't get into the habit of conceding late and getting complacent, because they've dropped now 3 points against Brighton and Arsenal from last minute goals. It's not. If you're gonna be fighting for the title, these are the games you need to do well in. And if you 1-0 up in the 92nd minute at the Emirates, you should be holding on to that result. And for Martinelli to break away, Donnarumma was poor for the goal, I think. But to let Martinelli break away like that, I think is poor from City. But yeah, Arsenal need to be starting Eze. I cannot fathom why Eze is not starting games for Arsenal. I think Arteta is really missing a trick by not starting Eze. He is, in my personal opinion, their most creative player. English isn't Englishing at the moment, but I think he's their most exciting player going forward. And he has £60 million, attacking midfielder. Even if he's off the left and cutting inside, I don't care. You have to start him. You really have to start him. And if he starts that game, it's a completely different game in my opinion. Giving Martinelli 1 point off the bench. Great cameo. If you come on and you score a goal, you've done your job. You've done a really good job. That's what you're there for. That's why you've got explosive players like Martinelli on the bench to come on and create problems. He isn't good enough to play every game for Arsenal. I don't think he's good enough to play every game for Arsenal and start every game. So that's why they've signed someone else to put him on the bench. And that kind of player, like Madueke, off the bench, is going to cause teams a problem. When in the 60th minute, when defences are starting to get tired against maybe slow fullbacks or slow central defenders, players like Martinelli and Madueke off the bench are going to cause issues. And that's why I think Madueke was a good signing for Arsenal, and that's why I'm giving Martinelli a point. And Eze gets 2. It was only off the bench, but he came off the bench and was just Arsenal's best player. Like, in that time that he was on there, he was Arsenal's best player. If he was on the pitch for the whole game, I would have given him the 3 points, but he wasn't, which is a fault from Arteta. I've spoken enough about it, so he got the 2 points in that game. That's all I've really got left to say. I'm going to Saliba 3 points. Prove why he got the contract. I think outside of Haaland's goal, he didn't have anything. He didn't really get many chances. I think Saliba was very defensively solid, and just a testament to Arsenal's depth that they can have players like Mosquera play the way they did, and then they're not even the best centre backs there. You've got players like Saliba there. Rangers has got 1 point for me. Good performance. Got his assist, and kind of showing a bit of a hint to the Wolves performance again. He was so good in that Wolves game. I don't know if he sold a dream, because he didn't play very well in the games following, but I think he played solid in that game. I think he did deserve a point, and he's back on the point sheet. Giving Doku another 2 points. I've loved these recent cameos from Doku. I've loved these recent cameos from Doku this season. He's still not clinical, but with Haaland on the pitch, you don't need Doku to be clinical. You need Doku to cause problems for defenders, and he has done that whenever he's played this season. When Haaland wasn't playing and Doku was playing, that's when you need, like last season when Haaland missed a lot of it through injury, I think, and when Doku played, he wasn't clinical enough. But that's because Haaland wasn't there. Now that Haaland's there, we can afford to be less critical of Doku, because he's not Haaland. You know, you've got Haaland there for a reason, so you need players like Doku to facilitate him. And rounding it out, Haaland gets 3 points. He scored his goal. You know, he scored. It would have been the winning goal if City could have held on well. But, yeah, if he scores, it's like a good performance for Haaland. I've said this plenty of times now, and he did his job. He got his goal, so that's all there is to it, really. And this is now the spread for game week 5. A lot of players in the 1 and 2 points list. A lot of, a lot of like fringe kind of players, and you can start to see the breakaways. You've got from 6 point onwards. These are the players that are playing the best, like for their clubs. So you like Grealish is the first one in double digits. Congratulations to him. And then these 4 have been great to start the season as of these. And then Dubravka or Iwobi, starting to get to the players that are performing here and there at the 5 points. When we get towards the midway point of the season, we can kind of work out what's going to be a good points total overall. So at the moment, 10 points is 10-10. That's fantastic because Grealish is the only one there. But towards the end of the season, if Grealish just stops playing well, that might be shit. So at the moment, you can kind of tell who's starting to break away and who's deserved. Like if you watch your games, these players do deserve to be there. But then there's good players. You've got Salah on 1 here. You've got like Van Dijk's in here as well. Odegaard's here. You've got Gibbs White on 2. Like Gordon and stuff like that. Guimaraes. So I'm sure those kind of players will start to catch up. But for now, this is the lay of the land. So thank you very much for tuning in. I know it's a late one, but I've been pretty busy this week and I've been playing a lot of FIFA as well, I can't lie, so I'll try and get this out tonight. If I don't get it out Friday night, definitely Saturday morning. But thank you very much for watching and have a good one, boys. Cheers.